It is 8:38. It's time for your Revelstoke Mayor Report with Mayor Gary Stalls. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Sean.
Well, Gary, lots of things are happening here in Revelstoke. I had a question for you. Do you ever phone other mayors, not necessarily even in the south area, but just to talk to them about what's going on in your neck of the woods and like, holy, are you running into this problem? Like, do you have that one person that's whining about their broken up road all the time?
Yeah, actually, I do have conversations with other mayors, and we talk about some of those things.
I got to imagine, though, that some of the issues are always consistent from you, Mark, Dave, all the way back to Don Sr. You know, like some of the complaints are always consistent. Like, I can't imagine that they're going to change. It's, you know, the river runs deep, but...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're fairly consistent.
So we do have lots of issues going on, and I know there isn't tons of new news, but I just thought I'd ask you if you've got a recap or anything new that has come up on your side of things with the caribou that maybe hasn't made it to the press.
Well, at this point in time, MLA Doug Kloofchuk is lining up a phone conversation with Mayor Rice and myself and Premier Horgan. So that's in the works. We're going to have a conversation later today about, and not including Premier Horgan, but Greg Kylo and Doug Kloofchuk, Terry Rice and myself. I'll have a conversation later today talking about our issues and how we want to approach things moving forward.
Okay, so you will get a chance to really express your concerns on behalf of our area.
Correct.
Okay, and he knew that this was coming down. I think some people were a little apprehensive about anything that comes from the feds. We're all apprehensive about. Let's just call it what it is.
Okay.
But when these types of things come down, and we did have that big meeting down at the community center, and lots of people from the rec world and from Downey and from the forestry industry were all there because it concerns everybody in that world.
Yep.
That a part of people wonder, would this have happened if Doug didn't stir the pot? Because Doug is a bit of an S disturber, right? Like, I watch his videos down at when he's in Parliament, and Doug does do those things. He pokes the bear a lot. Some might not like it, but other times, those are the types of squeaky wheels, right? They're the ones that get the WD. So
if he hadn't have intervened, we wouldn't have had that meeting here in the community.
What about the peace, though? Or were they just as squeaky?
The Peace were just as squeaky. They were doing their thing up there, but for down here, Doug was definitely the person that helped to mitigate that. He said, we need to have these conversations, and rather than have a conversation with just the mayors, they basically said, no, we'll bring the roadshow to Revelstoke.
But that kind of makes you wonder, well, were they going to until somebody started barking, or were they just going to let sleeping dogs lie? And that's where people start going, geez, it makes me not want to trust the federal government. Weird. Like, that's a new thing, but I think that's a fair statement of how some people might be led to feel. I could see that for sure.
Yeah, and so this whole process is started by the federal government, pushed on to the provincial government, and the way it was rolled out was a provincial government movement. It really wasn't the federal government, other than them in the background saying, hey, get this done.
Get this done. Yeah. Okay. So you'll have a little bit more news for us probably in the next 7 days or so.
I hope so.
Okay. Well, that's good news. So we've had a bit of a hiccup in the development services department, but some things seem to be getting a little better. We don't have a building inspector yet, but we have somebody coming in intermittently. Yeah,
and this past week we've had a building inspector here. He's here his last day today. He's been here for 4 days.
What's his name?
Bernie Zimmerman.
Bernie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bernie.
So anyway, he's been doing his thing here, and we appreciate the fact he's here. I'm not sure what the next couple weeks look like. The planning are looking after that, and as we move forward, hopefully there'll be somebody come out of the woodwork that says, hey, we want to live in Revelstoke and be a building inspector.
How long does it take, in your experience with this as councilman and now mayor, how long do you think it takes to hire staff, find, relocate, find a place for them to live, like all of it, like really just kind of a vague idea?
Once somebody says, hey, they want to come and they've got accreditation and we hire them to come, probably within 2 or 3 months, they're here. Having said that, in the building world now, building inspectors can pretty much pick and choose where they want to go. And so they're going to look for the best lifestyle, the best wage, that sort of thing.
Oh, for sure. I was just curious, like, like if I want a job, I apply, you might, okay, can you start on this date? But it seems as if that, again, packing up and moving from one town to another, it's not an easy feat. It's a lot, and it costs a lot, and it might take longer than one would actually hope, just because of happenstance. So I was just kind of curious about that. We're chatting with our Mayor Gary Sauls. Mayor, how did you feel about who Hannah sent home on The Bachelorette on Monday?
I can tell you I didn't see that.
Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I'd kind of caught wind that there was rumors that our illustrious and favorite complex in Revelstoke was purchased by BC Housing, and it turns out that it was correct.
That is correct. You were right. And I'm wondering where you're having coffee, because you're definitely getting the skinny on what's going on in the community.
So that is the case now. So BC Housing has bought that Mount Begbie land, or the Mount Begbie school land.
Correct.
Now they bought River's Edge or View. Riverview. No, that's the hospital. River's Edge.
Yep.
River's Edge, and then Columbia Gardens.
Columbia Gardens, yes.
I can say I live there. I know what's going on. I'll tell you this. I'm pretty sure that the green carpet that I had, I'm pretty sure it was the first laid carpet back in the 70s.
Yeah, probably still there.
Yes, it was riddled with cigarette burns. It was classy.
Yep.
But this, jokes aside, this is obviously good news for the community. We need it.
Excellent news for the community. They're going to mitigate the apartments and bring them up to modern day standards without sending people down the road. So whether they fix a couple apartments and move people between apartments, I don't know what their program
I think it's a tiered deal. So, like we'll take River's Edge, for example, that as people leave, then, okay, well, we're not going to rent out until this floor's clear, and then they'll renovate from there. I know people are probably wondering how, like, they'll determine whether or not they have to tear down and rebuild.
Yeah.
I think there's a part of everyone that is wishing that was it. Just sometimes things need to go and start up fresh. But you know what? Especially the gardens. That is such a big parcel of land, like square footage and 2 square blocks, city square blocks, I think.
Yeah,
so
it's huge.
In that middle round area, you think, holy crow, how many more spaces could you build? So who knows exactly what they're going to do. But if BC Housing's doing it, it's going to be done. And I'm to the understanding it might even start out as early as this summer.
That's their plan. That's
right?
their plan. They're ready to get at it.
And I saw some people online talking about it, and there was seemed to be confusion in terms of affordability. And again, we go back to this attainability, affordability, and the cost of living in Revelstoke. But again, BC Housing, this isn't for purchase. This isn't going to be affordable, attainable by me putting a down payment on it and buying a condo / townhome or whatever the case is. This is based on rent, based on your income. So they'll have tiers on. I don't really like calling it this, but this is just what it's called. You've got the lower class, lower middle class, and they rate based on that. I mean, there's nothing nice being called lower middle, but I mean, to be fair, I technically fall under lower middle, and I'm okay to say that, but it's a crappy way to say, hey, welcome to the club. You're lower middle. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, and it is based on income. So people who need an apartment, who have a little more income, will pay a little higher. Those who have a little less income will pay less.
But it is rent, not buy. So they think that's to be clear, too. So, well, with that said, that's exciting news.
It is.
Is there anything else that you think is coming up in the next short while that's going to either A, be a fireball of controversy, so you might as well get ahead of it, or B, something good that we can brag about?
Well, this past week, we had a group of people get together, citizens, I think 70 or 80 or 100 citizens get together to deal with collective impact, which deals with some of the social issues in the community. So that's starting a conversation, and it's an important conversation. So there was people there that are from all walks of life, but also people with lived experiences, so that we could hear directly from them some of the challenges that they face here in the community. So it was an awesome experience for me to be able to sit in for a period of time and listen to what people were saying. So I'm appreciative of that. Last weekend, we had the car show here, which was a great draw for downtown. We had 153 vehicles here, which was kind of unprecedented. So those sorts of things bring community together, that along with our farmers markets, that sort of thing. So we're happy to see that as we move forward. The council itself has been dealing with strategic planning, so we've kind of got that down ratified, and we'll have some information come forward with that as we move forward too.
It's a constant whirlwind, isn't it?
It is.
All right, Gary. Well, if you have any questions for Gary, of course, email him directly at gsouls@revelstoke.ca. If you want to send those questions to me, it keeps the conversation going. Just remember, if one person is wondering, there's at least 100 inquiring minds that would like to know.
You've got it nailed.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, thank you.
Gary.
All right.